What's up, Tolkien Poppers? I have another episode for you today. And on the podcast, I've got Matthew J. Distefano on, the author of The Wisdom of Hobbits, Mimetic Theory in Middle-earth, and his latest book, Letters from the Shire, which is out and is what I had him on the podcast to talk about. And the book was released the day after Hobbit Day. So it's been out for less than a week, and you should absolutely go pick yourself up a copy. Matt is the owner of Choir Publishing as well, and he has a farm, Happy Woods Farm. So he is a hobbity guy. And if you love Tolkien and you love letters, then you'll love this book. And I think that you'll enjoy our conversation because we really keep it lighthearted. We talk about his book, and we talk about various topics that Tolkien can speak to in our crazy world. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Go pick yourself up a copy of Matt's book, Letters from the Shire, which there will be links in the show notes, and enjoy the conversation, and I will see you all later. Peace. What's up, Tolkien Poppers? This is Nick, and today I am here with the Matthew Distefano, who is writer, theologian, philosopher, farmer, and, I guess publisher as well, and an overall hobbity guy. Matt, how are you?
And gosh darn it, people like me.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm busy. I'm tired, but I'm good. I think we're all kind of tired.
Yeah. I feel like there's like an extra weight of tiredness with the world.
Just a lot. So yeah. So you try to keep busy, writing about hobbits and you know galaxies far, far away.
Hell yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
even zombie apocalypses.
yeah. Whatever you got to do. That's next on the table. When it's the end of the world, you might as well write about stories that feature the end of the world, right?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. But for those of you who don't know, me and Matt has written a bunch of stuff, and he has written stuff from The Office to The Last of Us to Hell to all sorts of things. And we'll talk a little bit about Matt's journey here. But me and Matt, I mean, we met through your first book, when your first book came out, called The Wisdom of Hobbits, and you had an online conference, and I kind of just engaged with you. And then I feel like we've just been in touch and hanging out and hanging out with mutuals ever since.
Yeah, it was cool to I think that was Tom Ord who put it on, and lo and behold, there's others out there like me who talk theology and Tolkien. And it was like, and you and I just clicked. I'm glad we got to keep up after that. But that was fun. It was fun to talk to like people in this world, which is not what I always do. I've done a lot of theology books, right? So a lot of my stuff has been, and I like talking theology still, but it was fun to meet new people who are like focused on like something else. And it's like, what better than hobbits? And that's really what I'm into. I'd rather just do that and farm all day than talk theology, to be honest.
So true, so true. My wife's going through the Lord of the Rings for the first time, the books,
Oh,
and I'm
wow.
like so jealous right now. It's like the perfect timing. Fall's happening. It's just the
And you
time.
can't ever do it for the first time again.
Right. I like keep asking her questions, and she's kind of annoyed, but I'm like, listen, I'm
Yeah.
savoring your experience.
Yeah, exactly. I can only live vicariously through you at this point.
Right. Well, enough about our Tolkien, our collective Tolkien journey. I want to hear about your Tolkien journey, Matt. And one thing I kind of ask people at on the podcast is more about just like tell us about you, what you do, find yourself doing, and bring in your Tolkien experience alongside that, or interweave it, if you
Um,
will.
yeah, so I mean, like what I do a lot of different things. I'm a pretty eclectic person. I work for a bakery. I run a publishing company. I have my own farm. I write. I'm a dad, husband. I like gardening a lot, probably too much. I Some of my favorite Tolkien quotes are about trees. um, so it's Tolkien is it's I don't want to be cliche, and it's like it's a way of life, but it sort of is like there's so much insight and there's so much wisdom in his fiction, and that it kind of blends the lines between the real world and fiction. Because if fiction such as his impacts the real world so much, we can no longer parse out what's a real mythology and what's a fake mythology. It's just mythology,
Yeah.
and it's that impactful for me now. It wasn't always that way. It wasn't like Love at First Sight. I read it as a kid and then fell in love. I did read The Hobbit was first as a kid, and that was probably like 12 or 13.
Okay. Okay.
And I liked it, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna write a bunch of books about this, you know. Um, but as I read it and then reevaluated it, there was just something that just became, it was like a slow burn for me, and then the fire kept growing and growing, and it still is. I just it's such a profoundly insightful world that he created.
Yeah. Yeah. Your experience resonates with mine because I also encountered The Hobbit for the first time when I was like 12 or something.
Yeah.
Read it and liked it. And the movies came out. And like you said, eventually it just kind of slow burned. And now it's taken over most of my life and changed the trajectory of my life for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really excited. My daughter is in, excuse me, high school now. She tried to read it. I had read Lord of the Rings out loud with as many of the voices as I could when she was younger. I
Yes.
don't think we got through all three books. I got like maybe most of the way through Two Towers, and then for whatever happened, I think we moved and whatever, life, right? And then I told her to read The Hobbit, right? I was like, I recommended reading The Hobbit. She started to, didn't like it, and now she started reading Lewis, and then was like, I want to revisit The Hobbit, and so she's doing that now, older, and I'm like, okay, this is a tear, right? This is a very important day for me. So I'll see how it goes. I think she'll like it a lot, though. I really do.
Yeah. The Lewis, the gateway drug into Tolkien.
Sure, yeah, and she had been in multiple ballets. That was an adaptation of The Lion,
Oh,
the Witch, and the
cool.
Wardrobe. She's been familiar with Narnia for a while.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
Narnia is a cool place, but I think both of us
it's a cool
prefer,
place.
prefer the Shire, Middle Earth in
Yeah,
particular.
yeah,
But,
sure.
you know, uh, maybe there's some letters that have come from the Shire, your own little corner of the Shire. But I'm having you on here, Matt. We're hanging out because we're going to promote your book called your most recent Tolkien book because you have multiple, but it's called Letters from the Shire, which everyone should go buy. But before we get into the Letters of the Shire, because I think that people need to know about your other two books. So, would you tell us a little bit about your other two books, The Wisdom of Hobbits and Mimetic Theory in Middle Earth, and how you came to write them, and some of the themes and concepts, and just to wet people's whistles for this Matthew Distefano Tolkien trilogy?
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't even call it a trilogy because I feel like this one doesn't really belong with the other two. The other two I kind of did write as like a companion.
Yeah.
Um, this one is a little bit different, but just in structure. And the Wisdom of Hobbits I wrote, I had burned out on theology, to be honest with you. I had written multiple books on theology and some more academic, I'd say like academic light stuff. It wasn't published in an academic publishing company, but it was actually published by Quire before I owned it. But that was as academic as I wanted to get, and as scholarly as I wanted to get, and as theological. I was like kind of done with it. I was like, I didn't know what else to write, but I was very interested in Tolkien and Tolkien's world, but I was intimidated by it, right? Like so many people have written so many things about this world, not only the Lord of the Rings, but just like the whole legendarium and just everything. It's like, and continues to write it. And I was just intimidated by that. And there's a bit of this like imposter syndrome that happens when you're like, I'm not good enough. Who am I? What can I contribute? Which is weird because I'd written about God. Fine, like we can write about like the creator of the universe, if that's even what is the best analogy. Um, but I can't write. I mean, I dare not tread into Tolkien's world, right? Like that sounds infinitely more terrifying. Which I got over it because I was like, well, I have a unique way of writing and I have unique perspectives, and so I'm really, really, I find the hobbits very annoying sometimes, but endearing and charming. And so I wrote a book specifically about hobbits and what we can learn from them. That not only farming and gardening, but there's a lot of that, but philosophy and wisdom and practical wisdom. As secular as they are, we can even talk about God in light of hobbits, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then I was on a podcast called This Is Not Church, and Nat, one of the hosts, um, made a great observation, which I had noticed before, was like, have you ever written about Tolkien and Girard, Rene Girard, the French anthropologist and literary uh, philosopher, I guess, turned theologian, I guess. And I hadn't, but I've seen some essays on it, and talking about mimetic theory and what we can learn about desire and mimesis, and Tolkien's world is kind of ripe for the picking there. Boromir and the Ring, Sauron and Melkor, and you notice all these patterns, like all good literature. And so he basically, that was the genesis of the book. I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm allowed to cuss, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I better write this book now because I committed to it on the air. But it was a great idea, and it was the first book of its kind, which was
For
cool.
sure.
There had been essays about it, and obviously, I'm not the first to come up with the idea that we can find mimetic theory all throughout Tolkien's world. But I think, and I think that's still confirmed, that I was the first to devote a whole book to it, which is pretty cool for good or for ill. I think it's a little risky sometimes, but it's kind of cool.
Oh, it's so cool. And for those of you, just to encourage you to go get the book, you should both get The Wisdom of Hobbits and Mimetic Theory in Middle Earth. But um, myself being in Tolkien scholarly circles, like it's kind of cool to I've literally had people ask me, they're like, "Hey, do you know anyone who's done like a more in-depth treatment of Gerard and Tolkien?" And I'm like, "Actually, I do know the
Actually, I
guy
wrote
who
the
actually
forward
wrote
for
the wrote the literal book on it." At least
yeah,
the first one.
yeah, and I love that. I made a response to him in letters, but is it Grandler? I don't want to mispronounce his name. Dr. Curtis. I think it's Grandler. Had written a paper talking about mimetic theory in Middle Earth, and how he was looking forward to the time when this would kind of be. It's like the first song. There's many songs to be sung, so hopefully more people come along and expand on what I wrote in that book, because you can't write about everything, otherwise you'll never end up publishing, and then you'll have a book this thick. And so it's just an introduction, and I hope people come along and make new connections, um, and insights as they think more about the legendarium and have more knowledge about it than I do.
I think that's a perfect transition to even just to talk about the letters from the Shire, because it is very different from the first two books that you have, and so they're kind of the more, as you talked about, the more kind of traditional nonfiction essay style, while your new book is literally a collection of letters that you wrote to others about Tolkien questions and musings that they sent to you. So I guess what inspired you to publish these letters rather than just a collection of essays or another monograph with your other ideas?
I've always liked doing. If you notice, like a lot of my books are co-written with people. I like that. Some people, I mean, it could be a bad experience for some people, I'm sure. And I like doing books myself, and I like collaborating with people, because you come up with ideas and topics that you wouldn't otherwise write about. Like, so someone asked me about like the inner like what's the differences between like Tolkien's ring and Plato's ring, and I'm like, I don't know. I better but that's a great fucking question. I'll go do a bunch of research and I will let you know. It's publishing, so I'll let you know in like 2 years or a year and a half. But um, I'll make it official and I'll let you know what I think about that. So it was cool to get questions like that. It was cool to get questions, and I have a diverse group of friends, like people that I run into, like in circle. You go online, you meet people, you're podcasting, you're publishing people, you meet a lot of diverse people, which expands your way of thinking, right? I can only think
Totally.
about everything from my perspective. I can only approach Tolkien from my subjective experience, but because I'm not black, I'm not a woman, I'm not this, that, and the other, and they're gonna have a lot of different experiences and can ask really good questions, and we can come up with ideas that I wouldn't otherwise come up with on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that in itself is almost like very Tolkienian anyway, where even I was reading this current book about Tolkien's literary theory and talks about how there's kind of like this meta narrative happening where Bilbo writes his first story by himself, but then the Lord of the
Mhm.
Rings is literally a collective storytelling. It's him, Frodo,
Yeah,
and Sam with everybody else, you know?
yeah, 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 and that's just the way that Tolkien can spin that and write it in those, like I can write how I write, but to be able to, like, Tolkien sees himself, I don't know what the terms are, but like as just the translator of something that came before him that was written by others, and they have their own writing styles. And you read The Hobbit and you're like, this is the same author as the person who wrote The Lord of the Rings. You're like, that's wild. Yeah, and it's like, well, yeah, it's on purpose. And you're like, oh, this guy's just, we're here and he's up there. And that's why, again, I can write about God fine without having a complex. And then I dipped my toes into Tolkien's world at first.
No, it's so funny. People in the Tolkien scholarship are notorious for being like, if you want to write anything on Tolkien, read all of these books and then come talk to me. And, like you said, when we talk to God, it's like, I mean, yeah, whatever, go for it, I guess.
Everyone says what they need to say.
Yeah,
No one's been bashful about what they think about God.
no, it's true. Um, I guess too, so you address like a variety of topics in the book, right? Like ranging from the legendarium itself to how Middle Earth serves as a place where we can wrestle with theological and philosophical questions to modern day applications such as class and ecology. So, why do you see Tolkien's work to be a good place where we play with these questions and attempt to tease them out in our primary world? And I guess maybe make it more specific to the way that you hash it out with these letters.
Yeah. I mean, I think all good fiction, all good writing is going to, do that for us, right? Like, how are we going to apply it to today's world? Otherwise, like, I mean, if something's not relevant, it doesn't really kind of stick with it, doesn't resonate, right? Like, we could read something, we could watch a TV show, and if it's like, well, that doesn't really relate to anything in my world, then it doesn't stay. And that doesn't mean it has to be like our context. It could be fantasy, it could be sci-fi, it could be apocalyptic, it could be zombies, but it has something to say. Um, it has something to say about our place in the world today. I focus a lot on ecology because it's just such a passion of mine, and I can't help but notice like how the hobbits live, how they treat the world. Um, I hate to use the word idyllic because they're not an idyllic people. No, no one is. But the relationship to the natural world seems as close to idyllic, you know. But on the contrast to that is someone like Saruman, who is, I don't want to say Tolkien's like anti-capitalistic, but I mean he's kind of like emblematic. Saruman's like emblematic of capitalism. It always needs more and more and more to consume, and forests are not infinite and resources aren't infinite, but the whole system is designed for infinite resources. Otherwise it's not doing well. Otherwise the capitalist society isn't doing well. It's stagnation. And for Tolkien, I don't know if he meant that. I don't know all of Tolkien's politics. Maybe you know more about that. And the political world has changed drastically, obviously. Um, but it's hard not to notice like a very anti, at least the way we do capitalism. I'm not saying there's no way of doing capital, at least the way where it's consume, consume, consume. And it almost like it falls in on itself. The very natural world, which is represented by Treebeard, kind of, you know, fights back, and you're left with nothing. And that seems to be the trajectory humanity wants to be on right now.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like you said, it's it's the exploitative part in the myth
Hmm.
of infinite extraction for eternal growth, right? And I think Tolkien would call that, pride, dominance, and he would call that like black magic.
Hmm.
And I think, like you said, it's even if he didn't make a one-to-one allegory, I think that you're 100% on the money. That Saruman is that logical end to an exploitative economical practice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would hesitate to use any sort of one-to-one allegory, but we definitely see similarities in like how, our leadership, our structures, they kind of, they're all mimetic. They're all just following something that came before it. And it is about pride and dominance rather than, like, I almost see that hobbits in the Shire, for all their downfalls, they don't see themselves as like owning the land so much as like caretaking it and just being a part of it and like stewarding it, which is kind of like the command from Genesis. I thought, like, you're supposed to steward it, not you can't dominate a garden. You have to you have to caretake it. You have to, yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think one of the things I love about the stuff that you've written and even just our conversations, and I think that you are somebody who is a very careful reader of Tolkien. And I think that there, like you said, with the intimidation of how much just meticulous writing and fan works there are, including
Mm-hmm.
art. But I feel like the intuition and the desire to like nestle, kind of in the pages of Lord of the Rings while you don't stay there permanently but come out. Like, I just feel like that's an approach that is, you have to experience, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like your books do that. And I feel like it comes out in your current book on a more like personal level. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that part about it. I don't know. Would you like maybe give like maybe one or two examples of like letters that you can think of note where you're like, oh yeah, this was a great conversation, or I got this and it was really surprising and I loved, and didn't know this was where it was going to go, or I don't know.
Well, I already mentioned the Plato's Ring one,
Yeah.
which so that one stands out. There was one on feminism, and Eowyn and Galadriel. And it's one of those ones where, like, if you're talking about Tolkien and women, or you're talking about Tolkien and race, sometimes it can be a little tedious because when we apply modern standards to, past writers, they don't always come up rosy, right? Like, so, but in the same thing's going to happen to us in 100 years. Probably they're going to look back and be like, Nick said this, and Nick believed this, and Matt believed this, and Matt believed that, and it might not always stack up. And so some of those I was like, oh, huh. I went so, and you had to do a lot of research, and like, oh, feminists, just like if you're, read feminist theologians and how they approach God. There's feminist readings of Tolkien. There's liberation readings of Tolkien. And so then it became really fun to, like, I almost did approach it as an historian. Well, you did approach it as an historian, but as someone, who's doing theology, where it's like, I better take all these different perspectives and approach the text. There's queer readings of Tolkien. Um, Whether Tolkien himself would, affirm gay marriage or whatever however we write it and say it now, that's a dumb question, because it's like, that's not the question of his day. That's
Right.
not, why would we anachronistically pose those questions to someone who's no longer here and doesn't live in our context? But we can have readings of him from our modern lens that, if we do it carefully, um, it's a balance, and that was the theme of the Wisdom of Hobbits, is finding balance. It's like, have creative hermeneutics, but also like respect the attention of the author, respect the voices that have come between, respect all the different readings of it. And so when you do it that way, you can be creative because you're respecting that you're just a part of this whole ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh man, so well said. And I think too, with I'll just stick with the feminist one in particular because I think that I hang out with a handful of feminist and queer Tolkien fans and scholars, and they, the question is like, what's the balance between enjoying, Tolkien for who he is and trying to move beyond, some of the things that are
Mm.
problematic in his own life, or, whatever that is, however you want to articulate that. But I think that the conversation that that letter has isn't, because a lot of people either go, well, you can't say that about Tolkien, and they go on the full like mansplaining defender thing, or on the opposite
Yeah.
where they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, where they're like, yeah, you're right, Tolkien is problematic, peace out. But I think that,
Mm.
like, what I loved about your letters, which not all of your letters in the book are like this, but that they just are demonstrative of what good dialogue can look like and how growing
Mm.
and learning from each other, uh, I think in an ideal way looks like, and then finding a mutual ground to stand in a world that we love, even if we see things differently, or um, bring different criticisms or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with basic ground rules there, like we should be having dialogue with everyone. Um, the little voice on this side of my head is saying, yeah, but Matt, yeah, the current context. Yes, there's a group of us who have gone so far the right, whatever you want to call it, they've gone into just where they don't even acknowledge that other people should exist, right? Like that's not what we're talking about. But yeah, when
Right.
we have disagreements on like how to approach Tolkien, I think both the person who throws the baby out with the bathwater and the one who reads Tolkien as if he's sola scriptura, whatever that would be. It'd be Tolkien, sola Tolkien, whatever you're reading of Tolkien, be infallible, inerrant. It's like no, we can never do that with anything. I mean, we're not doing it with the Bible. We shouldn't do it with Tolkien. As much as I joke about how intimidated I was about writing books on Tolkien and not God, um, nuance has got to be the way we operate, right? Like there can be problems with like could Tolkien do better about having representation? Sure, if that was on his mind at the time, and if he was writing his stories now, and we like, yeah, if I wrote a great novel, I better have representation now, especially as a queer person. I would include a queer character for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but again, right, like these are not questions that were they on many people's mind back then. I not to the degree they are now. Um, so I wouldn't want to hold them to an impossible standard. And yet our words mean things, right? Like Martin Luther was Adolf Hitler's most favorite theologian. So it's like we wouldn't hold Luther to the standard we are today, but also your words matter, dude. Like you were super anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So he's a problem, right? So it is this balance of like these are these are people just like we're all people, and they all come from a context just like we do.
Yeah. And one of the things I enjoyed about the Letters from the Shire book is how personal it is. I feel like this is like the most personal of the three books that you've written, which you do give us a little insight in your Wisdom of Hobbit book about like your farm and like kind of the plans for it. And I feel like that was like the early inklings of it, and now you kind of give us an update in this book about it. But I think for people who are particularly involved in like academia or journalism, public discourse of any kind, like the personal stuff tends to get ignored, or supplanted by like pure rationality rather than being aware that both kind of inform one another and contribute to healthier discourse and progress, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. So, like, where do you
Mm.
see your reflections in the book doing that? And what do you think could set the stage for like a more positive engagement in Tolkien circles, and I guess just our world in general, maybe?
Yeah, well, I don't want to jump to the end, but yeah, I see that like my job or anyone's job in like theology, or Tolkien, or any sort of literary criticism, whatever we're doing, like it can't be from like an ivory tower of any kind. Like it's cool that academics do all the academic things, but it does have to. We do have to get these ideas into the public discourse quicker. Like I think it's always been like the church was like what 100 years behind, and that has sped up now, probably because of the internet and other things, right? Um, And so all these ideas, it takes forever to get to the church. And then we're like, oh, look at these great new ideas. And the academics are like, yeah, we've had this for like 100 years. This is old news. It's like, well, can we get, better, get it out there quicker? And we do that now. And I just, all the things we're talking about, whether it's video games or books or movies or God, like we have to always have in the back of our mind, like, how does this relate to us now? Like, how does this impact our world in general? Like, if I could be a little more personal, if I can, like, it's hard to hate someone like to their face. It's easy online,
Right.
right? Like, if you know someone, if they've shared a story, like, I don't want to go too far into La La Land and just hope that JD Vance could sit down with me and talk Tolkien. I don't, in a candid moment in another universe, maybe it's possible, possibly. But you know what I mean? Like, we have shared interests, even if we're as divided politically as we are. Like, there are things we're like, oh, I like that too. Somehow, JD Vance is a Tolkien fan. It boggles my mind. I will never understand it. But
You and me both.
right, like, okay, whatever. But there are those people out there that we're that divided with. But it's like, man, if we could just be personal, if we could just chat, if we could just show that we're all human and really humanize things, like, this isn't just like a person behind a screen. This is another human being who does real things. Like, I garden, I farm, I'm involved with great sourdough bread. Like, who doesn't love sourdough bread and vegetables? Like, okay, we can find commonality on something, right? So even if we're talking about Tolkien, I can mention my farm and the things that, like, because that's cool, right? Like, I can show in a practical way that Tolkien has changed the world for the better in ways that maybe he wasn't even thinking of. He wasn't like, oh, I wonder if this guy from the United States is going to read my stuff, and after a fire happens, he'll relate it to the scouring of the Shire, and then he'll rebuild a farm bigger and better, and it'll be the most amazing. And he'll draw that, and that's why he'll love that story that I'm writing. It's like, I doubt he was thinking about me. I'd like to think it, but so it's like, but in real practical ways, I think just being personal and sharing these stories is, it's not more important than academic stuff. It's as important.
Yeah. No, well said. Like you said, it's
Sorry, I rambled, but I got there eventually.
no, it's beautiful. I loved it. I loved all of it. And just like you said, it's almost like at some point when it's so divided, and I'm not talking about politically at this point, but just more of like academia or like on the ground level or in journalism or in these like sort of sub disciplines or even
Mhm.
sub classes, like at some point, like the walls have to come down and people have to unite and kind of collaborate to make things better, right? I feel like
I think so.
that's like the fellowship, like Bilbo eventually like hangs out in Rivendell and starts translating shit, and he was like the first adventurer and one of the first elf friends, who
Hmm.
was not uh well, I got he was the first hobbit elf friend for sure, and then Frodo next, but
Hmm.
um like Bilbo's translations and even Frodo's understanding was not for nothing. It ends up helping them in the long run and on the journey. Um, and of course, Sam is like the hero right at the end of the day who barely knows how to read. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. One of the things that you said about the um, the human part, I'm reminded of the passage in the Two Towers when Sam and Frodo and Gollum are in Ithilien, and they hear uh, the Easterlings coming, right,
Hmm.
and the Oliphants and all that, and then one of the Easterlings gets shot and his body falls near them, and Sam looks at the Easterling's face and he wonders if he really wanted to be in the war, right? Where did
Right.
his
Yeah.
family, like what things did he enjoy, right? And those are the things, like those are the human moments instead of like thinking about, the Saurons of the world, you
Right.
know? So like how can we
Yeah.
be
And
Sam in those moments?
yeah, where it's like, unfortunately, it takes, someone dying for that to happen in that moment. But yeah, we realize that our enemies, whatever that is, it could be figurative, it could be literal, our enemies, so called, they're having a whole life right now and they're viewing it through their perspective. And yeah, what are they caught up in? What have they been propagandized? Like who has told them what to get them here? How desperate have they been? Like, what are the economics like where he's at to make him want to go to war? Like, what is all of these things going into this decision that leads him to, and for a hobbit who, like you say, can barely read, um, like that whole scene is like you could write a whole dissertation on that. Like, um, and so that's the genius, I think, of the story and the narrative. And there's those moments I do love that moment because it really gives you pause. And it's probably something Tolkien experienced too, like in his own dealings with war.
Totally.
Do the people that I'm shooting at really, they even want to be here? You realize that a lot of times it's the poor, and in America it's people of color who go to war
Hmm.
by and large, right? Like we send our young, our poor, our immigrants to war. Do they to do the bidding of rich, powerful elites? Um, and we look across the battlefield and think that these are our enemies, and it's like they don't even want to be here neither.
Yeah, they're just doing it for the
It's
benefits
sobering,
that are there, right? Like how
whatever
I
the
mean,
reason might be. Yeah,
right. I mean, most of the friends, people that I even think about who've enlisted, is for like, oh, hey, the benefits are really good, or hey, this would be really good for my family in the long run, right? There,
sure,
I'm sure there's people I've met who are like, oh, I can't wait to go and kick some ass or whatever. But I think generally more people join because the incentives are there, right? And then
sure,
when the
yeah,
you kind of get caught up in the industry of war, and both the home and the other side dehumanize you and turning you into a tool for
right,
something like that, um, as opposed to celebrating the heroism and selflessness that goes into it.
right, right.
Yeah,
And then to almost flip it, like we've done in the States, is to say like I remember being anti-war was somehow synonymous with being anti the troops,
right.
like how that narrative. And it's like, wait, but war is where the troops die. Wouldn't it be pro troops to be anti-war? Because if we're against war, that they're not dying outside of war. At a we all die, um, but they're not dying from war. Like, why? How did we spin this narrative in the country, at least for a while, especially after 9/11, I guess. That was a big part of it. But it's like, yeah, we should be anti-war, therefore pro troops to keep them safe. But alas, we're in the
Yeah,
upside down, man.
yeah, we really are. We really are. Um,
To mix fictional universes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, also Tolkienian. There's a little bit of Beowulf in there. There's a little bit of ancient Greece in there, a little
Oh,
Olympus.
I love Stranger Things.
Oh, dude, I have been so stoked for like
Me too.
this. I'm like, I've been itching for it. I've been dying for it.
Mm, yeah, yeah. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, lots of Tolkien references in there too.
I mean, well, the whole premise is Dungeons and Dragons. There's got to be,
Right. Yeah. I mean, they had named the whole street Mirkwood or whatever, right? Or they named the streets that they don't know after Tolkien's
Oh,
locations.
oh, did they? It's been a while since I've watched. I probably need to at least watch the season 4 before 5 comes out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I probably need to do that too. Hmm.
It's,
Um,
it's been a while.
yeah. Um, well, yeah, man. I mean, other things that have come up for the Letters of the Shire. I guess if people get the book, like, what are you hoping people get out of Letters from the Shire?
Well, just that I think the beauty of being a human is just having a conversation, however that transpires, whether it's a podcast or writing letters to each other. I did letters just because I thought it'd be cool. Like, Tolkien wrote letters, published some letters. People don't write letters anymore, right? So, like, write a letter to someone. It's kind of old school and vintage. But however you communicate, like, yeah, I just that's what I communicate with people. and find a way to communicate, even with people you disagree with. And again, like some people take it so far that you just can't, there's no talking to people. But so don't waste your time with them. But most people are engaging and most people are curious. Um, so that's a word that's been on my mind a lot for the last couple of years, really. It's curiosity and just be more curious. And I love that I got to research stuff that I didn't foresee being researched. I love but I got there by being curious about it. It's like I'm curious what people think. So ask me some questions, and I hope you're curious about the answers I give. You know.
I'm thinking about when Ted Lasso quoted
Great
Walt
show.
Whitman. You know, when he said when he's playing darts, and he says, Walt Whitman said,
Yeah.
"Don't be judgmental, be curious." You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And then he threw like 3 triple 20s in a row.
Oh yeah, it's so
3
gangster,
bullseyes,
dude.
whatever.
So
Yeah,
gangster.
that's such a good show. I love that show.
Yeah, I can't think of seeing Anthony Stewart Head without thinking about Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He'll always be Giles to me.
Farmer Giles.
Oh yeah. Oh, a fam. Ooh, nice, very nice. But yeah, I mean, you know, listeners, Tolkien poppers, be curious. Go and get the book. It's really good. It's really personal. To get the other 2 books as well, but it came out on Hobbit Day, correct, or the day before, or the day after?
Dave, the was it the day before? It was the day of? No, it was the day after. It was the day after.
The day after.
Wasn't Hobbit Day on the 21st, I think?
22nd.
22nd. So it came out the day after. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there you go, people. The book came out like basically on Hobbit Day. So it was meant
basically.
It was meant to be here.
But apparently you're supposed to release books on Tuesday, so that's what we do.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, you know, you're in the biz, so you know.
I'm in the biz. I just go by what I hear. Just making it up as we go, man.
Yeah. So I guess I'll have all the links to all the books and stuff in the show notes and stuff, Matt. But like, if you want people to get connected to, I don't know, other stuff that you do, like, where do you want people to go?
Oh well, if yeah, I Heretic Happy Hour is kind of that's our thing. So we do that podcast twice a week. That's where I would, if you listen to podcasts, which you of course you do. You're listening to this one, right? So Heretic Happy Hour or choir.com, QUOIR.com. That's my publishing company.
Hell yeah. Well, cool, man.
Hells yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. And I will, we'll hang out on the internet soon, and then I'll get people connected to your book. So everyone go buy Matt's books.
Yeah. We got to hang out in real life soon too.
Yeah, we really do. I need to go out to the West Coast, man.
Yeah. You need to go back to Cali. I still know a lot of people in Tennessee, a lot of people, Nashville.
Yeah. If you ever come down, I mean, mutual people, if you need a place to stay, I mean, whatever, man.
Yeah. There you go. It's very hobbity of you. Open your home.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. With the wisdom.
I'm going to show up with like 12 of my friends at night.
Perfect.
All dressed up.